So do you have yours up at all?
What?
Your YouTube?
Oh yeah, I see. I have the YouTube window,
Okay.
Chrome.
Okay. It should be
So
showing
I see
now.
your. Hi y'all. What?
Oh, I gotta. There's like a. Let me fix
Oh
that.
yeah, I see.
Because we've got we've got an echo.
I have the YouTube window. Oh God, what's happening?
Yeah, give it a minute. I have to figure out what mic is on. Should be
So I see your. Hi y'all.
Oh, I gotta. Because we've got an echo.
YouTube. Also, where's your face? What's happening?
Huh? Is my face not on there?
No, it's your picture.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, because my face is on the. I've done it in a different way. So what is the echo? Do you have it up somewhere else? Have you turned the? Are you muting the other portion of it?
What other portion? Is it me?
I'm hearing like a feedback.
Yeah, me too.
So it means that somebody's got on their volume. Let me see if it's me. Okay, let's try it now. Do you hear it?
Hear what now?
So is your. Oh, it's telling me I have to increase the volume in order for us to hear you. Except, I think I don't. Yeah, I don't want to be. I need to be muted. Maybe that's it.
Is it? Are you on YouTube right now?
Yes, I can see us. Do you see
are.
us? On your YouTube page? Yes or no? So I do see us. It is buffering right now, and I don't know how to get that to stop. So I don't know if you're seeing what it's doing. I'm gonna ask if it's buffering. Because I am seeing it, like it is like coming through. I see it. It's live right now. My question is, can you see it on your YouTube page? And is it moving? Oh no, am I not on screen now? What is happening? Why did it do
It
that?
says the live stream is offline.
It should be back online now.
Oh, now it is.
Okay, yeah.
But you're not in the picture.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Hold on. Oh my god, okay. It should change here in just a second. There we go. Alright, so. Let's see. I'm trying to move you a little bit over. Because now your thing is off kilter here. I would have thought that it would have saved my settings, but maybe not. Alright, that's better. Alright. So.
I feel like I'm getting my passport photo taken. No smiling blank background.
Well, I was trying to cover up your picture, but I don't think that's going to happen. All right, that should be working now. We're on. Okay, so today we're talking about kind of roots and like family trees. So I don't recall ever being asked to build a family tree in school. I know some schools do that, and obviously, you know, as an adoptee, it's hard to navigate that. Did you have that in school?
I don't remember, honestly, in elementary school whether or not I had a family tree assignment. They're so common. I mean, I definitely had the, like, bring in your baby photo and see if you can, like, match who the current student is with their baby, and that's very obvious when you're one of,
Right,
like,
yeah.
2 Asian kids in a class.
Yeah, I always hated those too, because I was like, there's, I mean, what?
Yeah.
Nobody else looks like me, so.
But I did have an assignment in 9th grade in my biology class during our genetics unit where we were given a worksheet, and it was supposed to, it had things like whose eyes do you have, whose nose do you have, and you were supposed to like sit down with your parents and check off like which item you had inherited from which parent. And obviously I couldn't do that, and I told my teacher that I couldn't do it, and she was fine basically and said that I didn't have to do this assignment. But it's kind of like a pointless assignment anyway, because that's not the way genetics works.
Right, right.
I did have that experience.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I put this subject out was because when I was doing the live on Patrick, I decided to, well, I was looking at like his background because I was trying to find a photograph of him. Never had a photograph of him, so what I did instead was look at his family tree, and I was able to do that because it gave me the ability to kind of sorry, are you, I mean, I'm hoping people can at least hear sound, but what I'm showing is it's not up. Are you seeing that?
It's very laggy.
It's, oh, okay. Still? All right.
And choppy image-wise.
Okay. Still?
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay. Well, anywho, I'm hoping that when it goes up, it won't look quite that bad. But um, so doing his family tree, I was able to find like high school pictures and his family, and I actually was able to trace like who his birth mother was because he was adopted. But I have a feeling he was adopted by his possibly his biological father and another wife, maybe. But anyway, doing that also got me like thinking about trying to find my kind of family tree, but meaning my adoptive family, because obviously, even though I have DNA data in that database, there's nothing that comes up for me. Um, so I was just like flicking through the ancestry stuff and found like my adoptive mom's family and where they all went in Tennessee and all of that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I found some really interesting pictures of my grandmother as a teenager that somebody else had posted. And so I got a little excited about it and took it to my sister, who is my adoptive parents' biological child. And I was showing her on screen, like, oh, look at this, and doesn't our great grandmother look a lot like this great aunt and all these different things? And she was super excited, and it was exciting to be able to share that with her. But then when I got off the call, it kind of like hit me that, I don't really have any biological connection
Mm-hmm.
to that family and I can't view myself in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember for my grandparents, I think it was like an anniversary. One of my aunts had made or like commissioned a family tree to be made, but it was like my grandparents as the trunk, and then their six children and
Right.
partners, and then the grandchildren were like in the leaves, like offshoots of the branches.
Right.
And I have a cousin who's adopted from Guatemala, and
Mm.
I'm adopted from China. And next to our names in the tree, there's like a little bird that's representative of like Guatemala for him and China for me. So there's like a phoenix by my name. And I thought that was a nice, like, symbolic way of like representing us in this like family. But I understand it's still, yeah, it still is like, um, on these like holidays like Mother's Day and Father's Day, Siblings Day or whatever, and everyone posts all these pictures of their family members, and I
Yeah.
often just like, I'm like stare so incredulously at these peers or people I know. I'm like, wow, like they look so much like their parent or their sibling or whatever, and I don't have that
Right.
sense of racial
Belonging.
mirrors in my family, but also just like, even if in like other Chinese people, I see, but like trying to match up, like, oh, like, but do I look like anyone? Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Totally get that. Um, I'm trying to think what it was. Yeah, like when somebody posts, for me, it's when somebody posts an old picture of a relative that they have.
mm-hmm,
Like they're looking back at their history, kind of like my sister and I looking back at my adoptive mom's history. And then seeing that representation of that person in that old photograph.
mm-hmm,
And that's where I'm like, oh, I wish I had that.
yeah,
you know Having said that, I will say, like, it used to hit me more before I had children, but I never talked about it. I mean, I wasn't going to. Both my parents were living at the time, and but obviously having children and being pregnant was one of those things that made me want to know more, um, because, because you're basically living out an experience that your birth mother had, right? That your biological mother had to have gone through this with you. And
Mm-hmm.
so, um, I, like, I couldn't ask my adoptive mother, hey, did you go through this or did you go through that when you were pregnant? Because it wouldn't have meant anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I don't have children, but I do think about that in terms of um, if I have children in the future, like my mother has never given birth to a child. Like I couldn't ask those types of questions.
Right.
Or I could, but I just wouldn't get answers.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think too, because like at first, I think I asked my mom some questions, and obviously she had to answer me because to be honest, like sometimes we both would forget, right? And so you're just having a conversation. And then um, she would say something like, oh, that's a good point. We aren't really related. So my experience wouldn't be your experience, because she actually she had two um, deliveries, one a stillborn and then my sister. So, she had gone through two pregnancies. But again, it's not the same as like, you know, um, hers is different, a different experience altogether.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, aside from that, I will say, um, doing the DNA thing, because I recently had the kids' DNA. They did theirs, and we all, and it's kind of nice because now that my parents are gone, um, when those things like Mother's Day and all those things happen, I can now post things where I have somebody that looks like me beside me, right?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that's very what's the word I'm looking for? It gives me validity, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Right? Like I am a person. I am a person who does have, a biological connection to someone else that I can
Mm-hmm.
see.
Yeah.
So you recently did which one did you do? 23andMe?
I did 23andMe in 2015, right before I went to China for
Mm-hmm.
a semester. Um, and I remember, I have like 170 some like genetic relatives in there, but the closest match is like a third to fifth cousin, which is still pretty distant.
Yeah.
Um, and I get like this little sense of hope every time I get an email that's like, you have a new genetic relative. But um, so far, at least, there hasn't been anything really fruitful from that um, biological family speaking. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it is interesting to get like a breakdown of when or like my DNA and my ancestry. Because when I was little growing up, people would ask like, or they're like, oh, I'm half German and a quarter Irish. And all I had was like, I'm Chinese. But I didn't really know
Right.
anything beyond that. So that was interesting to see. And then I recently uploaded my 23andMe like data into Beijing, which is a Chinese DNA like
Mm-hmm.
website database, and they give a more specific ethnic breakdown within like within China. And
Mm-hmm.
so it actually, that one said that I have quite a bit of like a southern minority group in
Huh.
my DNA, which was something that I hadn't really considered before.
Interesting. Yeah. Um, when you, because for me, it was interesting because when I did the 23andMe, it's been a while. I can't remember when I started it. Um, it was probably 2014, 2015, about the same time. And at that time too, like the database wasn't big enough to tell me anything, right? Like what percentage you were of what. And so the only relative I had at one point was closest to, like, because, well, was a Japanese person in Japan. Because pretty much anybody, there wasn't anyone who was in the database who was from Korea at the time.
Mm.
So, what I did find is then I had all these people reaching out to me, and they were all Korean adoptees. And you knew it because it said you were, third to fifth cousin, and then you'd see their face and you'd see their name, and it would be like this really white bread name, and it was like, okay. you
I have
know?
a number.
Do you
Yeah, I
find
have a
that?
number
Did
of
that
people who
happen
I
to
can.
you in 23andMe with Chinese adoptees?
Yeah, I have a number of people I can tell are adoptees, and there are also a number of people I can tell who are like, or at least have grown up in a Chinese family. I don't know if they're stateside or in China, but I also have a fair number of like Korean people as well
Interesting.
um, in mine. And so my genetic breakdown has like changed. When I first started in 2015, the results said that I was like 13% Korean, and now it's a bit less. I think it said like 8% Korean, and there was like 2% Vietnamese. But then when I just did this like WeGene website, and they put me at a much smaller percentage of Korean, around like 3%. So
Gotcha.
I think it's like, it's interesting. It probably means that there is a little bit of Korean in me, but to what extent, I'm not sure.
Right. And again, I think like 23andMe, your day, like the things they can report to you is based on what their database is. And so if they don't have a lot of Chinese, you know, DNA in there, it's harder to then kind of extrapolate the right kind of information, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
23andMe
yeah,
is like the DNA testing site that the Chinese adoptee community has really rallied around and
yeah,
has been
same with
used for the
Korean.
most part. What was that?
Same with the Korean adoptees.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
I don't really know, like, how large their Asian data pool is.
so the one that you downloaded your data to, and that was you said a Chinese
Yeah,
site
it's a
or
Chinese
database?
company.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because a lot of us in the early stages were, they recommended that we use GED match, which has since been like absorbed by another company. And I
Mhm.
haven't been back on since that. But at that time, like, there were a lot of, they were also trying to dump in data from Korea into that database as well, so that no matter where you had your uh, test, all those results would go into one place, right? So it's very funny because, Matthew. Have I told you this story?
I know that you're somehow distantly related.
Yeah, so but he called me because the GED match was really like it was so scientific and it had all these little numbers and stuff like that, and it didn't really do a good job, I think, of kind of reporting where you were. And so he messaged me one night about he thought we were siblings.
Mm.
And then it turned out that we were cousins, probably fairly, I wouldn't say super distant though, because it did show that we were pretty close in terms of the entire database. Let's say each of us were within 10, 5, 10 people and each other's matching. So, anyway, it's this like trying to find out. And I will say, like on 23andMe, there is someone. He's much younger than me, but apparently, according to them, we would be second cousins, which is pretty close. But he's an
Mm-hmm.
adoptee as well. But he would have hopefully a better chance of getting something than me. But it would
Yeah, I think
mean
that's
we share, would it be great grandparents? No, grandparents? Something like that. Like,
yeah.
I think it's grandparents who are siblings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that that's like one thing that I've been thinking about too, since um, like it's just easier to find biological family. The younger you are, the closer to like your adoption or the closer to being in that country it's
Right.
been. And so, like, if a younger adoptee who maybe um, like maybe had a little bit more information than I did was in the one of these databases and we were related, then that could like help me as well.
Yeah.
Um, but so far, nothing's happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing's really happened on this front either.
Yeah.
And I've had my DNA taken twice in Korea by the
Mm-hmm.
police, for one, and by a genetics company in Korea, and haven't gotten anything from that.
Yeah.
But the database, it sounds like the database you put your information in might be a key. Do you know if any original families are dumping data into that?
I'm not sure about this one. Meijin, it kind of seems more like 23andMe, like just like this more commercialized DNA, like find out like secrets of your past. But there is
No, I don't want to know about my past. No, I
there
mean
is
personal
a,
past.
a database that people are using and advertising on like finding posters. So in China, um, because there were so many street abandonments,
Right.
they have been making these like finding posters that are based in like different provinces, and it has like these adoptees, picture and then baby picture, and it tells people like if you think that one of these is your kid, like to go put your DNA in this database. But I know that the number of like birth parents in the database is fairly small, especially when you think about just how many Chinese adoptees there are in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so annoying.
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
super annoyed. um, and then I guess you've heard about the case where actually it was, is it camera? Car- yeah, Right? Anyway, it's a Korean nonprofit that's been taking DNA samples from original families who were seeking, as well as people who are adopted. And
Mm-hmm.
she was able to find, I guess, through this, the connection to her biological father. But then there was a lawsuit, and it's for me, like, you know, I'm glad that people are seeing it. You know, it does get publicity worldwide, which has been a good thing. Um, but I don't really see it ever changing necessarily Korean law, because the original parent can still say, I don't want to see you. You're not a part of my family, you know. So,
Yeah. Wasn't the outcome of the lawsuit that the father had to recognize her as his daughter?
so I think it had to do with family registry, but that doesn't mean he has to meet her or give her any information,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And
I think,
and to me it's like, okay, great, I'm on a family registry, but that isn't necessarily what I want, you know?
yeah.
I mean, it does answer that question of who are my ancestors, right? It does answer that question. Um, but I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, as a human being, I just want to be considered a human being by those people who gave me life, or who, you know, that's what I would want.
Yeah. I think that that kind of speaks to just how complicated reunions are and that there
Yeah,
are no easy answers. And I
right,
think that, you know, we as adoptees who have slash are searching, we have no answers. But I think that just because you're able to find family also doesn't mean that you're going to get those answers
right,
necessarily.
yeah,
Um, you could find them, and in this case, the family just doesn't want contact with you. Like that's a chapter from the past; they've closed, or like you were like a secret hidden baby who your like parent, your biological mother has remarried, and no one knows about you, and she can't like open that door and threaten her current life,
right, yeah,
and so it's hard. Um, I have some friends who have reunited, and they're like just beautiful stories of like the birth parents meeting the adoptive parents, and like the original family coming together for like the holidays, even though like the parents have divorced, and just wanting to make this um like this family thing for the adoptees. And then I've also heard of like, yeah, just really hard cases and reunions where adoptees who really desperately wanted birth family like have to close the door on the birth family.
right, yeah,
And um and like just that feeling of double loss of finding family and then losing them again.
yeah,
And it's just, it's all hard.
yeah, yeah. I know. I feel like sometimes uh that ignorance is bliss, if you will, in some ways. Um I don't know. It's a struggle. It's like an internal struggle for me of what I want, or what I think I want, or what I believe, or what I want to believe. Um yeah. It's a struggle. And, you know, the older I get and the more uh, the older I get, and then obviously with COVID, I start thinking about, well, there's probably no one for me to see, you know? Because I mean, I'm 52 or 53 in Korean years. So, you know, if she was young, yeah. But if not, if they were older, probably not, you know? Like they'd be in their 70s, more than likely. So,
Yeah.
you know, and then if they've not shared it with, say, children, then there would be no way really of me being able to find that. So, anyway, maybe we should move on to how are your brownies? Like,
Oh,
let's
fun.
lighten the mood. Did they get. Oh, fudge. It was fudge, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fudge. Cool. Good. I'll have to send you my fudge. Okay, we got 5 minutes left, it says. Did you see that? Gave us a
No.
warning. Said you got 5 minutes left. So, do you have any closing thoughts, Grace?
Um, on root searching, I think that it can be a really isolating thing because um, no one else can really go through your same journey or process.
Yeah.
And like, um, and you know, the instances where people find it easily are so they provide a lot of hope, but also hope can be a really devastating thing when it doesn't work out for you.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, something that I've been thinking about a lot is just like it's a really emotional process, and you have to just be really, I think you have to be really ready for any outcome when you do it, and sometimes like I've wanted to find biological family my whole life, but I have not been able to search consistently my whole life. And I think that a lot of it has to do, like when I was in China, I got I just like came to an immediate dead end and was devastated by that, and I had to like have some time and space to recover from that disappointment, and before I could like be ready to potentially face more disappointments related to
Right.
this.
Yeah. I think that happened with me going to Korea the first time, and then because I was devastated. And then the second time, I was more angry, and so I was more pushy because I was living there, but I was also trying to take care of my family at the same time. And so it made it really difficult because, you know, I was trying to care for the mental health of, say, my family in this situation that I've brought them in, you know. So, anyway, well, I think it's going to end on us here in a second. But thanks, Grace. We'll have to do it again. I might have to look into other options of video chatting because I'm wondering if WebEx as a encrypted, the fact that it's encrypted is also making it slower. I don't know. Anyway, that was all techie stuff. So I'm gonna stop the chat,
Okay.
which is probably gonna stop the live. I'm thinking. Maybe. So, oh my gosh, I do not understand how this stuff works. I really need a class. You know, I need a class in how to make this
I'm
stuff
sure
work.
you could find a virtual class on using virtual platforms.
I'm sure I could. Anyway, thanks again, Grace. Mwah. I feel like you're like my little sister, and I'm happy to share pregnancy stories when the time comes.
Thanks.
So I'll talk to you later. We should definitely do this again. I have to think of another topic. What were we? I mean, it might be good to talk about the going back
Mm-hmm.
to our original countries.
Yeah. Does that mean that the live is done?
Yes. Right now, it will be done. Right now, it's probably just showing the ending piece.